Hello, my book, Branding Brazil Transforming Citizenship on Screen, looks at a recent period in Brazil's history starting around 2003 and explores how ideas of a new Brazil were being promoted in cultural policy as well as manifested in selected works of film, television, alternative media, and photography. The book examines how practices of nation branding sought to give new definitions to citizenship in Brazil, sometimes in contradictory ways. I found discussions of branding rooted primarily in media studies to be particularly helpful to think about the intersection of art, politics, social change, and economics at this time. So, thinking about what inspired me to write the book, the project has its origins in 2001 when Brazil was declared a new emerging nation alongside China, India, Russia, and South Africa, or the BRICS. Prior to this period in the 1980s and 1990s, Brazil had come out of a long military dictatorship, faced economic challenges, and had gone through a process of redemocratization. So in the early 2000s, there was a great deal of fervor around Brazil taking on a new role, economic role, political, cultural role on the global stage. This was furthered by a series of international mega events, for example, the World Cup in 2014, the Olympics in 2016. I found that the idea of a new Brazil influenced cultural policy and was manifested in different modes of cultural production. And notably, cultural production was seen at this time as being central to a creative economy and also a way to achieve greater social equality. So on the one hand, I wanted to reflect on this excitement about Brazil, but I also wanted to question how cultural identity was being refashioned for political and economic purposes. I was also interested in thinking about or exploring some of the fears and the hopes surrounding these changes, both internal to Brazil as well as externally from the United States. In terms of new interventions that the book makes, I offer a model for thinking about nation branding across multiple types of film and media production: film, television, alternative media, photography. I found that nation branding has often been thought of as being more centralized or strategic or even more limited in scope, say, in the example of a tourism campaign. But I approach branding as a broader discursive practice that is linked to utopian aspirations, which underscore Latin American history generally and Brazil specifically. The model that I offer focuses on three key practices: cultivating buy in, promising progress, and resolving contradictions. I found that these are the most salient and recurrent practices of nation branding that link back to some utopic beliefs about Brazil and its potential as a nation from about 2003 to 2014. I learned quite a bit in researching and writing this book. One observation concerns how we see a period where there were efforts to bring about greater equality and inclusion that has been followed by a period of increasing polarization in Brazil that we see in other countries as well. But for example, we see this polarization in the impeachment of President Rousseff in 2016, in the presidential election of the controversial politician Jair Bolsonaro in 2018. The current moment is also marked by public protest of race relations, police violence, and economic inequality. I think it's important to think about the current moment, the current period, as being closely linked to this recent past. What promises were made during the branding period? What expectations were established? What challenges were made about what it meant to be Brazilian, and how was this seen as a threat by some? So these are some of the tensions that I explore in Branding Brazil.